Today, we're talking about how to use AI to drive revenue. Every business wants to increase revenue, but when many business leaders think about how to use AI for that, they're thinking about things like chatbots or AI driven content marketing. Those are part of the picture, but the real pros know that there are a lot more tools that you can use to increase revenue. Hi, my name is Joshua Ebner. I'm a 20-year expert in AI, machine learning, and data science, including at companies like Apple and Bank of America. In this video, I'm going to break down 5 core areas that you can use AI techniques to drive revenue. Okay, number one, use AI to understand what drives and blocks revenue. Almost every company either has or can get a lot of information about the things that either drive revenue or block revenue. That information comes from things like sales calls, support tickets, customer reviews, surveys, and so on. All of that information is data, and that data is a goldmine for figuring out what's increasing or decreasing your revenue if you know how to use AI properly. A couple of notable ways, though. Number one, you can use AI to do sales call analytics. Modern tools make sales call analytics much, much easier. If you record your sales calls, obviously with the consent of the customer, if you record those calls, then you can get a transcript. It's relatively easy. In fact, many recording systems will automatically generate the transcript for you, and you can use a variety of AI tools and techniques to analyze those transcripts to figure out what's going well and what's going poorly. Now, I'll say you can use large language models for this, like ChatGPT or Claude, but there are some more specific tools and techniques that you can potentially use that could, in some circumstances, be even better. So, for example, if you have a large amount of sales call transcript data, large language models are going to be a little bit imprecise and inaccurate in identifying the major topics. They'll do that a little bit, but they're not the best tool. There are some related tools like masked language models and other topic modeling techniques that you can use to identify the most common or most important topics that come up over and over and over again that either drive increased revenue, things like high customer satisfaction, or areas where customers are a little bit frustrated or skeptical about buying. Now, you can use these tools and techniques even more broadly outside of just sales call analytics. You can use it more broadly for customer analytics. So, anywhere you have support ticket transcripts, customer reviews, survey data, particularly the open ended data, where you leave an open ended text box and allow customers to provide free form feedback, that data can be an absolute goldmine for you. But you will need to use a lot of those techniques that I just mentioned. So things like analyzing with a large language model, masked language models, and topic modeling techniques that can help you identify potential issues with customer satisfaction that are upstream of your revenue. One other thing that you can do here is you can use certain types of predictive models inferentially to understand customer behavior. In particular, you can use certain types of predictive models to understand the drivers of things like upsell and churn. And that brings us to the next major area that you can use AI for revenue. By the way, if you really want to use AI in your business, you're going to need to figure out if you're ready for AI. That being said, go take my AI readiness assessment. You can find the link in the description. Click on the link. It's only a few questions. It'll take you less than 5 minutes, and it'll tell you if your business is ready for AI, and if not, where your gaps are. Click on the link and go take the AI readiness assessment right now. And that brings us to our next major area where you can use AI for revenue, and that's predicting and preventing churn. One of the biggest leaks in a business's revenue bucket is churn. It's when people are customers and then they stop being customers. You can use a variety of AI and AI related techniques to either predict churn or understand it a lot better. So, first, with respect to predicting churn, you can build predictive models that can literally predict churn. We've been doing this for 20 years or more. Typically, here, we are not going to use a large language model. This is one of the areas where I think a lot of business leaders get a little bit confused. They think that tools like ChatGPT can solve all of these types of problems. In the case of churn prediction, that's generally not true. The best tools for predicting churn are going to be predictive models. And for this, we'll often use things like linear regression or certain types of decision trees. I don't want to get too technical here, but I want you to understand some of those terms and options. Now, importantly, not only can you use these predictive models to predict who's going to churn, you can also use these predictive models to understand which factors are driving churn. So if you build these models correctly, you can sort of look inside and deduce which factors, which input factors are driving churn behavior the most. And once you understand those things, then you can go and fix them. So, for example, if you build a decision tree or a similar type of model, you can use what we call feature importance, which is essentially which input variables are driving the output behavior the most. You take that information and then you can use it to make changes in your business. I have done this at some of the other major businesses that I've worked at in the past. So let's say you build a predictive model that successfully predicts churn. You can look inside that model and let's say you find out that one of the biggest predictors of churn is the amount of wait time that a person has when they call customer support. And if you investigate the data even further, you might find that the average wait time for a customer support session is, let's say, 8 minutes, way too long. In that sort of scenario, you'd want to go fix that customer support wait time very quickly. So you can use these predictive models to understand the major drivers and then go fix them in your business. And then finally, and similar to the points that I made in the previous section, you can use a variety of tools and techniques like large language models, masked language models, topic modeling, etc., to analyze some of your text data. Again, things like support tickets, surveys, reviews, and so on, and do that with a specific mind for churn, trying to identify the major drivers of churn so you can fix those things. If you want to increase your revenue, though, it's not just about keeping customers, it's also about making your customers more valuable over time. So, here we're going to talk about using AI to increase customer value. One of the best ways to do this is with upsell prediction or upsell propensity models. So, you can build a sort of predictive model that will predict when someone is ready to upgrade to a higher level of service. Let's say you have a product or service with three separate tiers. Now, if you don't, that's okay. But I will say that one of the best ways of increasing your revenue is having different pricing tiers for different service levels. So let's just say, for example, that you do have different pricing levels and someone is at the lowest pricing level, let's say at $100 a month. You can build a model that will predict when they're ready to upgrade to the next level, let's say at $200 a month. And if you do this successfully, you'll be able to make a prediction of when they're ready to upgrade and then have processes and systems in place to reach out to those people, maybe with an upgrade offer, maybe with an offer for a sales call where you have a sales call, try and sell them on the upgrade, and so on. So you can build these predictive models to predict when someone is ready to upgrade. If you do this right, this can dramatically increase your revenue per customer. Another way, and this is maybe a little bit more difficult, but it's very, very powerful if you do it right, is with recommendation systems. Now, you're probably already familiar with this. If you buy from Amazon, they almost always have a set of suggested additional products. So let's say you are looking at books on a particular topic, it's almost always going to suggest other books in the same area. Or let's say you go and buy a pair of shoes at Amazon and you're almost ready to check out, they might provide a set of other products like pairs of socks and things like that. So these sorts of recommendation systems are very powerful for increasing average cart values, as well as increasing repeat buys. And more generally, they're great for cross-selling. But even if you're good at retaining your customers and you're good at identifying the additional products that they might like, you're still going to need high converting offers and copy. So here you can use generative AI to improve your email offers, your website copy, and your content marketing. So first, you can use artificial intelligence to accelerate your content marketing. Things like article generation, video scripts, email copy, all of that stuff. You can use artificial intelligence to produce that stuff faster. Now, I will say here, I strongly recommend against using AI all by itself for that. AI typically all by itself produces kind of generic copy, but if you have a subject matter expert or a professional like a marketing professional working hand in hand with generative AI systems, they can usually produce a lot more copy and sometimes add a higher quality. It ends up being sort of like a content marketing productivity tool. Next, things like website copy. It's sort of a very similar thing. You can augment a copywriter or a marketing professional with generative AI systems so that they can write website copy a lot faster. This will enable you to do a lot more tests. You can also use various types of AI, like I talked about previously, more for analytical purposes, trying to figure out what are the problems, what are the objections, what are the features and benefits that customers really like or want. You can use various topic modeling and text analytics techniques to understand those things, then take those insights, bring them to, let's say, ChatGPT or another generative AI system so that your generative AI understands those insights and it can help weave those things into your marketing copy. You can also use techniques like RAG. RAG, you might know, means retrieval augmented generation. With a RAG system, we're typically taking documents and putting those in a specialized database called a vector database. And then we use the documents to augment generative AI. So, another way of saying this is that RAG enables generative AI to understand a lot more about your business, about your products, about your customers, about your policies, etc. And with that information, it's going to be able to generate much better email copy, web copy, and so on. Furthermore, if you want to make this even better, if you want a generative AI system that can match the sort of tone that you use in your business, some businesses have a very specific tone and feel to their copy. You can take an existing system like a ChatGPT, and then using some AI and machine learning techniques, you can fine tune those systems to closely match your brand voice. This is actually very difficult to do with a purely off the shelf system. A system like Claude or ChatGPT will often forget your exact brand voice. If you can take one of those systems and then do a little bit of fine tuning, it will get a lot better at that and be a lot more consistent over time. If you do this right, you'll be able to write more copy, it will be stronger, and you'll be able to create that copy faster, which enables you to test it and find what works the best. This ultimately drives revenue. And finally, this is sort of a roundabout way, but I think it's actually one of the best uses for AI right now, and that's using AI to automate lower value work. Let me explain. If you're trying to drive revenue, one of the things that you want to do is focus on the highest value tasks that are most likely to drive more revenue. So, a lot of people in marketing and sales and operations end up getting bogged down with lower value tasks. This distracts them from the higher value tasks that actually drive revenue. So, you should be looking for areas where you can use automation systems like Zapier or Make, or alternatively, even AI agents, you taking a large language model and then connecting that LLM to other tools using systems like LangChain, a programming framework for creating AI agents. You can use those tools and techniques to create automation systems that can help automate some of this sort of repetitive, lower value work that frees people up to focus on the higher value work that drives revenue. So, those are some core tactics that you can use to drive revenue in your business. But if you really want this to work long term, you'll need more than a few tactics. You'll need a real AI strategy, one that tells you where to invest, how much to invest, and what to ignore. So, in this next video, I'll show you how you can build that AI strategy and start building competitive advantage that compounds over time. You can check it out here: How to Build a Great AI Strategy.